At the tone, please record your message.
up, guys? Welcome back to Roxham TV and also welcome back to Jam Crypto, whichever platform you are watching on. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. As for Bitcoin, I would say it's a little bit wobbly. Bitcoin is a little bit uncertain, haven't decided whether we are going up or down. Again, the narrative kind of aligned with the 4 year cycle because people are calling the cycle top on exactly 6th of October. And that's kind of what we have seen because exactly on 6th of October, we saw an all time high of 126K. So that is adding a little bit of uncertainty in the market for sure. But of course, today we're going to cut through the noise. We're going to look at the data. We're going to look at the Bitcoin chart, the course, we're gonna dive into the news. There are quite some news, and I do want to dive a deeper into the topic of AI and Bitcoin mining, because one trend that I noticed is that Bitcoin miner companies, they are right now pivoting to AI infrastructure, and I do think we are just about to see the start of it. There's going to be like more Bitcoin miner companies joining the list for sure. So that's another huge topic we're diving into. Another topic that I want to talk about the news is that human trafficking. So there is basically this bigger scammer, and I think he not only deserves to be rot in jail for the rest of his life, but I don't think he deserves to be human. But right now he's still on the run. He has been using Bitcoin to do a lot of like illicit activities. And right now, a bunch of that Bitcoin, like 127,000 BTC being confiscated by the US. So we're going to look into the news. We're going to dive into the topic. So without further ado, let us share the screen. Let me share what I'm seeing on the Bitcoin chart and let's hop right into the TA. So, of course, we are looking at the shorter time frame, and then we're going to slowly jump onto the higher time frame. We are starting off with that 1 hour chart. One thing I noticed about the 1 hour chart is that okay, we have like higher lows. That's good, right? However, one thing I spotted is that we also have a lower highs, which is not necessarily a good thing. So ultimately, we could draw a trend line. We are on an uprise in terms of the support level. However, we're kind of like squeezing inside this triangle at the same time. So that's adding the uncertainty, like Bitcoin, whether this is going up or going down. So not only this, like okay, of course we're still on the downtrend. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that. But zooming out, like in terms of the general downtrend, I was actually calling the local top that was when we reached 126K. So that was exactly 6th of October. So I was calling this top. The reason why, okay, of course, I did not predict like this cascading event, like Bitcoin dropping all the way down to how much is this, like 102K. That's on Binance because we're reading the Binance chart, but like different exchanges have different price. But like, of course, I did not predict this dump. But if you zoom out, like it makes sense to have this correction, like this loco top. So, like I would say, if you zoom out and you look at the general trend, this correction makes sense. But at the same time, one thing it kind of worries me from the 1 hour chart. So let me actually remove the trend line because it's extremely annoying. So one thing actually worries me is when we hop onto the volume and we bring out the VLVP. Okay, we kind of like undecided. When we started this live stream, we are seeing that bit is dipping again. So one thing that worries me is that from the volume, what we could see is that between 109K to 102K, basically the volume is so thin. In other words, if Bitcoin lose that, so if we lose this support, we are very likely going down to 102K rather quickly. I'm saying like fall off the cliff. So that's one thing I saw, at least on the shorter time frame. So that's one. Let's also hop on to the daily chart right now to see if we could have a little bit more like bullishness instead of really falling down the cliff, falling down the hill, or something like that. Okay. As for the daily, we haven't got confirmation for today yet. One thing about the downtrend is that the triangle is still forming. So remember, we were drawing the trend line on the hourly chart, right? So a little bit about somewhere about like this. So squeezing in this triangle. So one thing about this is that we are really building up that momentum, whether we're gonna go up or go down, like break a leg up or leg down. That's very important. So I would say in the coming hours, because obviously we haven't closed this daily candle yet. Like if we zoom closer, we are still on 16th of October. So we haven't decided whether we're gonna break out of this resistance or break down out of this support level. So we will see, but one thing for sure is that the triangle is squeezing in, so we are building up that momentum. I would say the coming hours or the coming days is very critical. That's why we do analysis like this every single day, because we kind of have to take it one at a time, like day by day. All right, so that's for the daily. Let's also hop on to the weekly, like we're slowly building up that time frame. So for the weekly, let me remove again the drawings because it's very annoying. So for the weekly, I kind of want to bring up the RSI right now. If we zoom out and kind of look at all the way back to 2025, maybe late 2024, so December 2024. One thing about the RSI is that we have been essentially building up this bearish momentum for RSI ever since December 2024. Well, obviously this is a bearish divergence. So again, like people are asking if all of this align with the 4-year cycle, since people are saying 6th of October is the top. So yeah, that's one thing we need to notice, because it kind of changed it from yesterday. We were doing a live stream from yesterday, and I did mention that we need to take things one at a time. And same for the RSI. Like the RSI is building up that momentum inside the triangle. Let's see, we could break out of this triangle. Like this momentum have been building up for a year, so that's how crazy it is. And so that's for the RSI. Let me close this now, and I kind of want to bring out the bull market support band as well. Bull market support band and also the 50-week moving average. The reason why I like to bring up the 50-week, we talk about the 50-week like extensively for many times on whether on Gem Crypto and on Roxham TV, is that every single time if we end up getting 2 weekly candles close below 50-week moving average, then the bull market is done. Like it's done. I'll see you in the next bull run. But like the case is, we still haven't seen that on the weekly yet. But what I noticed is that we have been using the bull market support band as basically the floor. We are inside this bull market support band. Let's see if we could manage to stay inside this cloud. You see the cloud that we're building here? It's like right now it's almost the floor. So let's see if we manage to hold it. But I kind of want to stress about, mention more about the 50-week. Let me bring up another chart so that we could price data. So we are using the Coinbase one. The reason why, let's close the bull market support band. So the reason why 50-week is so important. So we could see minor correction. So we only know this in hindsight, right? But if we get 2 weekly candles below 50-week, then we have basically confirmation that the bull market is already over. But okay, we are not that yet. Okay, maybe saying that statement, some of you guys are, oh my God, Jeremy said that, and we have to sell all the altcoins and sell all the bags, but we haven't got the confirmation yet, so that's good. That's why this coming few days, like basically this week, is very important because we are already inside the bull market support band. Let's see if we go all the way down to the 50-week. The 50-week right now is 101. So if we lose the bull market support band, very likely we're going to touch 101. But it depends if we are just like wicking 101. So that's what happened, right? So back in April this year, we're just wicking below 50-week, and same for August 2024, we're just wicking down. But if we zoom out and we look at, okay, let me close the bull market support band because it's very difficult to read. So if we have the weekly candle close below this like blue line, then yeah, I would say it's time to take a massive profit. Then I'll see you guys in half a year. I'm just joking. Like, I would definitely take profit, but I will still be doing live stream for sure. But again, in terms of like investment wise, I think it doesn't make sense for me to hold my bag for another a year for the prolonged bear market, and at the very least for altcoins for sure, because like I got into crypto market back in 2021. I've seen the craziness from GameFi, from NFT. So it's definitely not fun holding altcoins like going down more than 90%. That's what happened with Sui, right? So people are saying like this market is so different, and I agree because like this cycle is like never before. So we essentially have to ask this question: whether the macro environment, whether the unlocking of the global liquidity is enough to extend the bear market, so that the 4-year cycle is no longer intact, so that the liquidity enough to push a new all-time high for Bitcoin in 2025. I still think 2025 we're going to see, I don't think 126 is the cycle top, because like the news wise and also from a weekly TA perspective, we haven't touched the 50-week moving average. So there's no reason to be that bearish right now, because like if you go on Twitter, people can be quite dramatic sometimes. So that's one question we have. Like, is the global liquidity, is the central banks around the world cutting rate, printing money, basically buying bonds? Because we have confirmation from Jerome Powell yesterday. We cover that extensively in our yesterday live stream. So if you missed that, I'll highly encourage you to watch our yesterday live stream on Roxham TV. So basically what Jerome Powell was saying, that QT has ended. Like, so quantitative tightening has ended. Like, he didn't use the word QE, but we know for sure, okay, his term gonna end in next year, so in May. So probably the next person, whoever take over Jerome Powell's place, like he's gonna be a puppet of Donald Trump's. And you know Donald Trump, he likes to have a lot of liquidity in the market. He likes to print money. He likes lower rate, because lower rate means borrowing becomes cheaper and kind of like trigger a lot of like economic activities. So that's one. And scenario number two is that, are we just doing what Bitcoin does? So the 4-year cycle is so intact that if you count from the cycle bottom to the cycle top, we'll get 1,064 days every single time. So if that happened again, maybe we have already seen the cycle top, but we only know this in hindsight. But one early indicator, as I keep mentioning, is the 50-week moving average. So like until then, I would say there's no reason for me to be that bearish, because we are technically we're still trading above that. And despite that market crash, that crazy market crash that we saw last week on Friday, Bitcoin is still above the 50-week moving average. So yeah, until it dropped, then otherwise there's no reason to be that bearish, I would say. And let's also hop onto the S&P 500, because as you know, Bitcoin is very highly correlated with the S&P 500, or most likely the Nasdaq as well. So the reason why Bitcoin, I do think Bitcoin gonna get even more correlated, like the correlation number gonna increase because Bitcoin is becoming a mature asset. So it's very likely that since the institutions, all the big boys, all the big money entering, like Bitcoin charts and S&P 500 going to be like very closely alike in the coming years, like more closely tied to each other. Because what happened just like a few weeks before is that we are seeing this a little bit a deviation. So when the S&P 500 was like pumping so much, like Bitcoin was just like kind of going sideways. But like for the past weeks, we are seeing this like this correlation back inside again. So we are seeing a pump. So you could look at the left side and the right side. So left side is the S&P 500. We're seeing an uptrend, and then look at this. Like we have a correction on the S&P. So does Bitcoin, and then we are pumping again, and then we have like obviously this massive crash that was like extremely painful. So does Bitcoin, and then we are essentially pumping a little bit as well. So like if we are following the general stock market, there's another reason like I'm not that bearish, like until I see Bitcoin actually have a weekly candle close below the 50-week moving average. I'm not like too concerning. I'm not like too concerned here. So right now, like we know Donald Trump is not going to give up the stock market. So that's another reason why that he's definitely not going to let that fail, because otherwise is really not good. All right, so that's for the TA. Let's also hop on to the on-chain analysis. As you know, I love numbers. I love data. And that's at least what the TA has been telling us, like both from a shorter time frame and a longer time frame. Let's also hop on to the on-chain analysis. So the first chart that I brought it to you is a short-term holder cost basis change. So what the hell is this? Basically, is the average buy price of coins held by short-term investors. What it means by short-term investors is that people who have been holding Bitcoin less than 155 days, that's what classify as short-term investors. So why does this matter? Because this level often acts as a line in the sand. So I would say, okay, in bull market, Bitcoin price usually stay above short-term holder cost basis. So you're seeing the pink line here. So that's the short-term holder cost basis. So in a bull market, we usually staying afloat, like staying above this pink line, and it acts like a support. Where in bear market, like the price often struggles to climb above this, so it acts like a resistance. What's happening now? What we're seeing is that after the big flash crash, like Bitcoin drop like more than 16,000, bulls managed to push the price back above the short-term holder cost basis. So that was fine. So we were like above that a little bit. However, like hold your horse. Here's a problem. On 4th of October, Bitcoin dropped below the level again. So today, when Bitcoin tried to climb back up, it got rejected right at the short-term holder cost basis at this line. This is actually short-term bearish, and this aligned with the TA that I was like talking about. So both the hourly and the daily on the THR, it's not looking so good. So it means sellers are showing up right at the average buy price of short-term holders. Many of them are nervous and selling near break even instead of holding. So why does this matter? For the market to turn positive again, like bulls need to regain this level, like get back out of this pink line basically and hold it as support. If they do that, it signals confidence and could restart the momentum in this cycle. Like if not, it suggests like fear is still very much in control. All right, so that's the short-term holder cost basis. And on the chart, I like to bring to you guys is the net realized profit and loss. So it's basically what it sounds like. It shows us how much like profit or loss Bitcoin investors are like actually locking in every single day when they move on the blockchain, because it's on chain, right? So on the Bitcoin network. So if the number is positive, like people are selling at a profit compared to what they bought for. If the number is negative, then people are selling at a loss. Like it's useful because it reflects the emotions of the market. Like big spikes in profit taking usually happen near cycle tops when people are feeling the hype. They're so euphoric. However, like heavy losses usually happen near bottoms when people panic sell. So what this chart has been telling us is that, okay, in 2025, because this is start at in May 2025 this year. So every time this metric dropped to today's current levels, the market usually found a short-term bottom soon after. That means there could be some short-term relief coming, but here's the catch. So the biggest bottoms of this cycle happen when this metric was much lower, even like when negative. Right now, we still far from that. Like we haven't really touched negative. So while the data hints at a possible short-term bounce, there's still a risk of more downside ahead. So that's the second on-chain chart I like to look at. And the final one, that one, is the topping cloud. Like I haven't really covered this before on this channel, but basically, this is the tool that blends together several long-term Bitcoin valuation models. So think of it like a weather forecast for Bitcoin price. The cloud, the cloud here, right? So the cloud area shows where Bitcoin is fairly valued or overheated. The upper bands of the cloud marked overheated levels where investor profit and hype usually peak. By watching where Bitcoin's price is inside or outside the cloud, we can see if the market is still healthy or getting a little bit too hot at the moment. So right now, Bitcoin is making higher lows. So you're seeing higher lows. Let me zoom closer, higher lows. So at holding levels that have lined up with bottoms in the past. So that's a good sign for the bigger picture. But in this cycle, okay, the last two big lows happen when the price broke above the MV-LV 1 day. So, MV-LV 1 standard deviation. So the purple line right here, and also the green line, so the floated price. So during this recent run to new all-time highs, price hasn't been able to break above those lines. It's been rejected at the MV-LV 1 standard deviation multiple times. So the purple line. So if we test that level, that is like it means aiming for around 135k. That's what marked on this chart. So 135. So I would say the bigger picture here, perhaps the bull market is still structurally intact. Dips below the short-term holder cost basis are normal in bull markets, but the recent rejection shows there's still fear among short-term investors. So what bulls want to see is that Bitcoin trade above 114k and hold it to build confidence. If they fail, there's still a real risk of further downside before momentum comes back. So anyways, that's for the TA and also for the on-chain analysis. So that's for the data and the number side of things. Moving to the next segment, we also have some news bringing to you. But before we getting into the news segment, let's have a little break. So I'll see you guys in 3 minutes after the ad.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
All right, welcome back, guys. So as I promised before the ad break, we're gonna get into some news analysis and also some breaking news bringing to you as a Bitcoin investor you probably want to know. So the first news is what happened basically on 15th of October. The DOJ unsealed charges against this basically a horrible man. So Chen Ji, a Cambodian businessman accused of running one of the largest crypto fraud operation in history. So the DOJ seized 15 billion in bitcoins. So that's 127,000 BTC worth $15 billion, making it the largest crypto seizure in US history. The fraud was tied to something called pig butchering scams and forced labor compounds in Cambodia. So victims worldwide lost billions of dollars, including many victims from the US actually. Both the US and UK also hit Chen's network with sanctions, officially designating it a transnational criminal organization. Basically, who is this person, right? This Chen Ji. So he is a Cambodian national with UK citizen. He is the head of something called Prince Holding Group, which is a giant company that legit, like they have real estate, finance, consumer services, but prosecutors say it secretly become one of Asia's largest crime syndicates since 2000. He allegedly ran 10 scam compounds, kept ledgers profits, paid bribes, and even gave orders about torturing workers, telling staff not beat them to death. So his profits funded like luxury yacht, jet, homes, Picasso art, rare watches, and political influence across different countries. Chen right now is still on the run, like is still at large. So the FBI opened a top line just to basically happen. So how did this fraud work? So there's like this structure of the organization. I find it like it's so scary, like knowing some part of the world, this kind of stuff. So these scams use the pig butchering method. So basically, their workers being trafficked from over 60 countries were trapped in compounds with barbed wire and guards. They were forced to pose online as romantic partners or investment experts, tricking victims into sending crypto. So for launder through gambling site, mining farms, and shell companies tied to Prince Group. So this group right here. One compound, they have more than 1,000 phones. Scroll down. So these like 1,250 mobile phones. These phones are used running 76,000 fake social media accounts for fraud. Globally, scams like this have stolen more than $75 billion since 2020, with $5.8 billion by US victims in 2024 alone. So it's completely crazy, like looking at how structured they are, and especially maybe because I'm from Hong Kong, we have a lot of like news about groups like this from Cambodia. Actually, there is a movie called No More Bets. This is like okay, it was released 2 years ago, and it was quite massive in China, and it's basically about this human trafficking. So a bunch of people, even in Hong Kong, like we will get news about like some people trying to get a job, basically being a good citizen because we're just like looking for a job on the open market. But there are ads like this, so they're fake ads saying that okay, there is a job, maybe overseas job. Seems that they're getting more advanced. The ad wouldn't explicitly say that it is based in Cambodia, but instead, like it just feels like a regular job interview. So the interviewee, so the candidates actually, so the candidate would do an interview. It feels everything feels normal until okay, they were like, okay, this job is actually overseas, is based in Thailand instead of Cambodia, because people in Hong Kong, they feel more alert when we hear Cambodia. We know there are a lot of scams built like this in Cambodia. So the scammers are really smart. They use other location, maybe Thailand, and saying that okay, once you get to Thailand, then this is your job. This is what you're gonna do. But once they landed in Thailand, they're actually being shipped to Cambodia or some really fishy fields to do scams like this. So yeah, I mean, it's really heartbreaking to see this and how they torture people. Like I do recommend watching this movie. Like everything is about how they fraud people, how they run all these scams. But anyways, like the US is highly involved this in as well. So even though this guy is originally Chinese, now he has a Cambodian nationality. US victims lost billions of dollars because of this organization, and parts of the scheme used US financial systems and networks. He the fraud conspiracy and money laundering conspiracy charges. Like each charge carries up to 20 years. So that will bring a total of 40 years maximum. So since that we are talking about Bitcoin, we are a Bitcoin investor. What happened to the seized Bitcoin, right? So the DOJ has filed for the basically to keep the seized 127,000 BTC. So usually these money go like the seized Bitcoin. Like looking at the past history, usually okay, officially the goal is to return assets to victims, but history shows that US usually auctions seized Bitcoin. So they will basically sell the Bitcoin. In the past cases, so there's like Silk Road seizures, billions went to actually the US Treasury instead of directly to the victims. So since the US is trying to, at least we have the talk of strategic Bitcoin reserve, I don't know about the US doing the right thing and returning the money to the victims. But I guess the US is going to be very happy. Yeah, I mean, that's the hard truth. But we don't have any confirmation and no officials about this yet. Like victims can still file claims via some like FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, but don't expect you're gonna get a full repayment. That's rare. So how big is this seizure, right? Because okay, if you look at the 2016 and 2022 seizure, like okay, in 2016 when Bitfinex was hacked, 119,000 BTC was stolen. So as remember, this time we seized like 107,000 BTC. So that's bigger than bigger than 2022 Silk Road seizure. Of course, it's a small slice of the global $75 billion stolen, but it takes down a major Southeast Asian network. I think, okay, maybe I feel more connected from Hong Kong, but like bringing down organization like this, I'll be extremely happy. So I don't think this is the end, because humanity, basically human being human. But okay, of Bitcoin, I'll say there are different perspectives. So UK already froze Chengji, London property, so worth over £100 million. He tries to, I'll say, why he managed to run scams like this is that obviously there are ties to the government officials from Cambodia or even maybe China. So like there is some concern about this. And then as for the crypto community, Bitcoin community, of course, this is bullish for Bitcoin. Like since supply is locked in with the government, like if US government is going to keep that for strategic Bitcoin, for sure, they're not going to sell. So that's 127,000 BTC out of supply. So anyways, the key takeaways is that, okay, even though criminals use Bitcoin for scams, but let's not forget, Bitcoin's transparency is everything is on chain. So it also allows law enforcement to track and seize funds. This is actually a historical win for the DOJ and for the US, but also a reminder that the fight against global crypto fraud and human trafficking is far from over. That's the sad truth. All right, so that's for the one of the news. And then the second huge topic I want to jump into is actually Bitcoin miner and also AI. So this company called Bitdeer is seeing like huge topic like this. Bitdeer jumped 30% to new all-time high on AI expansion. This is Singapore-based Bitcoin mining company. So they have a huge jump, hitting a new all-time high. So let's look at the stock price. So new all-time high of $7 per share. And in just 2 days, the stock surged 50%. The reason why, because the company released a September 2025 update showing a big pivot, like a big shift into AI cloud services and high performance computing, or it's called HPC for abbreviation. Their new AI arm, Bitdeer AI, made like $8 million in revenue in September alone. So that's how crazy the whole thing is. Wall Street absolutely loved this story. And some of them, they even doubled down their price target from $30 to $50, like saying Bitdeer's pivot to AI is the main growth driver. So I kind of want to dive into topic like why I would say Bitcoin miners and AI, they work so well. They complement each other so well. So after the Bitcoin halving back in April 2024, of course, like Bitcoin halving, Bitcoin miners are guaranteed to have the reward cut by half every roughly 4 years. So miner revenues basically dropped significantly. To survive that, many miners are now repurposing energy-hungry facilities for AI workloads. So Bitdeer, they aim to build 3 gigawatt of power capacity by 2026, targeting $2 billion in annual recurring revenue just from AI conversions alone. They already, like they're opening new sites in Ohio, Southeast Asia. They've also built like sufficient new chips. So the SIL 04 chip and bought NVIDIA GPU. So making them very flexible to switch between Bitcoin mining and AI tasks. This is part of the wider trend, I would say. So miners, there are different Bitcoin miners are doing this. So miners are pivoting to AI as well. There's the Irene, how do you pronounce that? Irene, basically formerly known as Iris Energy. So Irene, cyber mining, Terry Wolf, Bit Farms, and Clean Spark. We talk about Core Scientific like extensively on our previous live stream as well. So I think Bitcoin miners are so perfect for AI. So I would say same needs. So they have huge amounts of power. They require cooling and also hardware. They definitely have the advantage when it comes to like power. Like miners already have cheap long-term power contracts in remote areas with renewable energy. So building new AI data centers takes like 2 to 5 years, but miners, Bitcoin miners, they can convert in like within 6 months, like 6 to 12 months. It's saving a significant amount in terms of cost. And also when it comes to the hardware flexibility, so ASICs, of course, used for Bitcoin mining, they can't train AI, but the facilities can be retrofitted for GPU clusters. Like some miners even build hybrid system to toggle between mining and AI depending on which is more profitable. And mining yields is about like 5 to 10 cents per kilowatt in revenue. AI workload can bring in around like 50 cents to $1 per kilowatt. So that's like a 5x or 10x higher margin. So dollar wise, in terms of revenue, is making a lot of sense. And other advantage why I think Bitcoin miners is basically a perfect fit. So geopolitical angle, like rural US sites like Texas, for example, like they fit both mining and AI demand. And repurposing helps miners shake off those environmental villain image, because something very interesting that I don't manage to grasp my head around is that when people talk about Bitcoin mining, the initial reaction that we got, especially in the beginning, was that, okay, Bitcoin mining is so bad because it consumes energy, while AI consumes more than 10x the energy amount for compared to Bitcoin. And yet institutions are getting in. Google is investing, I guess, because they are the big money, the big boys. So yeah, they kind of like don't care about the I would say the energy consumption. So people are not complaining. All right, so why big tech invest in Bitcoin miners? Because I mentioned earlier, like Google or even Microsoft, they are investing into Bitcoin miners. Like the reason why, the number one reason is that companies like Google and Microsoft, they need AI ready data centers fast. Like demand is 2 to 3x higher than supply. But building from scratch, as I mentioned, is slow, it's expensive, and it faces local opposition. Instead, it makes sense for them to partner with Bitcoin miners who already control like 10 to 20 gigawatt of capacity worldwide. So example, I talked about that before. CoreWeave signed a $17 billion deal with Microsoft using miner infrastructure. So as Google, Google backed the what's it called, cyber mining. So Google backed type of cyber mining, guarantee a $1.4 billion in AI host. So I do expect like big techs, they are getting in, they're investing in Bitcoin miners for sure. And basically stocks like how stocks reacted, mining stocks tied to AI pivot massively outperformed Bitcoin itself, like which is more than 100% year to date. That's crazy. When investors see AI announcement like as more profitable than Bitcoin mining alone, they'll get really happy. So if we could show the table, the graphic. So for example, like Irene, how do you pronounce that? Irene. So year to date, the gain is 186%. That's as of October 2025 year to date. And the second one is cyber mining. Of course, we talk about the deal, 150%. And then we have TerraWolf, 120%. Bitfarm, 80%. CleanSpark, 70%. Bitdeer, 150%. That's so crazy. That is like crazy stuff. Like Bitdeer up 30% in just one day alone. Literally just broke a new all-time high. Yeah, and then people are saying there's another narrative. Maybe it makes sense to invest into Bitcoin miner companies. So I would say like Bitcoin miners company, they are really thinking of way to not to survive. I would say because of the 4-year cycle, the revenue got cut into half. They're guaranteed to cut into half, so they kind of have to think of other ways of making more revenue. One narrative that we saw earlier, especially earlier this year, is like the Bitcoin treasury company. It was really hot, but like right now, if I could share my screen, so let's hop onto the Bitcoin treasury.net. So we are seeing, of course, the most known one being MicroStrategy. The MNAV right now, okay, 1.19x, and then Mara being another mining company, so 1.4x. So the reason why I want to bring up the MNAV is that, okay, if the number is above 1, then it makes sense for the companies to raise more funds to purchase more Bitcoin. But like if it's below 1, then the company likely can't really raise more funds. So we are seeing the MNAV is shrinking, and the narrative or like Bitcoin treasury company is kind of like not as hot. I wouldn't use the word dying down, but right now I'm spotting the trend of basically TradFi, big tech company, Google, Microsoft into Bitcoin miners companies. So yeah, that's another trend that I think is very interesting because AI is seen as the safer and more scalable play, while Bitcoin treasuries are a little speculative. Do let me know, chat, because I know you guys are very active. I'm actually watching the comments actively during the whole show. So I see Fernando, Anita Chu, Andrew, and me. Do I have Discord? No, I don't have Discord. All right, so do let me know your thought about this trend for Bitcoin treasury company and also Bitcoin miner company. Yeah, so I think before we wrap, I actually have prepared more news, but looks like we're running out of time. So one thing is also at all-time high is hash rate. So that's good, right? So hash rate, we're at all-time high. Let me soon close out. Here you guys see. All right, so as of today, Bitcoin a record new all-time high. I mean, talking about the hash rate, so it's up 100% this year. This is of course good for security because we have stronger network, harder to attack, and it's also good for investors because hash rate growth often signals confidence and can lead to price action. As for macro, like the ETF inflows of $3.9 billion in Q3 and institutional adoption are keeping miners active despite the halving. And right now, AI is getting in. So going back to music Bitdeer, like Bitdeer's pivot shows a bigger trend. Bitcoin mining alone is becoming less profitable compared to years ago compared to cycles ago after the halving. So they're kind of thinking of different ways to stay ahead of the trend. And I would say AI infrastructure, I'm seeing a lot of synergy between Bitcoin miner companies and also infrastructure. So AI infrastructure is a new growth engine. It's faster, higher margin, and very attractive to investors. So I would say this isn't just a survival strategy, it's a transformation. Like miners may become the AI landlords of the future, renting out power and data centers instead of just mining BTC. So I'm actually liking what I see. I'm afraid we have to wrap here. I prepare more news, but like I don't think today you've got enough time. Actually, like the next news is about BlackRock and Nvidia backed group strikes like 40 billion AI data centers. So basically, more AI and more synergy between big tech and TradFi and also Bitcoin mining. Anyways, let's see if we have tomorrow, but we're gonna have to wrap here. So before you call to action, make sure to follow us on Twitter. So my Twitter is jamcrypto_. Make sure to follow Roxham TV as well. Going live right now, so let me hit the like. So Roxham TV, because we have updated news. We have like news about the world, about macro, about geopolitics. So it's not just so Bitcoin focused. Okay, gold hitting new all-time high. So make sure to give us a follow on Twitter, and also if you haven't subscribed to YouTube, make sure you subscribe on both Jam Crypto, my YouTube channel, and also on Roxham TV YouTube channel. Same time tomorrow. My show is Monday to Friday at 4 a.m. Eastern time. Like I'm doing live 4 a.m. till 5 a.m. Eastern time. If you guys don't manage to catch the live, you can always watch the playback. Again, it's on Roxham TV YouTube channel and also on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much. And let's see if we have time for the Bitcoin miner and AI news tomorrow. So thank you and peace.